Are you trying to make the concept of unique ability teamwork work, but you're running into some roadblocks? Stay tuned to figure out how to organize and align the unique abilities on your team to get results that are faster, easier, cheaper, and bigger. Hi, Shannon Waller here, and welcome to Team Success. Today, I want to talk about a subject that hopefully will get your heart beating a little faster, for some of you at least, and that is all about efficiency and effectiveness. You probably didn't think I was going to be talking about that, did you? Now, what's become really, really evident to me that actually how you align people's unique abilities in order is actually a crucial, vital factor in unique ability teamwork. So it's kind of interesting. I'm someone who is always promoting that people are doing what they're best at and what they most love to do, and that, you place people in the right roles. But one of the things that gets missed, unless you're really paying close attention, is how do you organize and align those unique abilities to get stuff done? It's not enough to just have the right person in the right seat. You actually have to coordinate their activities. And one premise, which probably should deserve its own podcast, is how much more communication unique ability teamwork takes than I would say standard teamwork. Standard teamwork, you've got people in roles and they're expected to do the processes that are laid out, and it's not customized to the person who's there. If you want to up level, if you want to 10x your teamwork, then you actually need to do it a little bit differently. Or you might want to do it a little differently. You might choose to do it differently. So let's talk through what that means. And here's the really cool impact and the benefit is even though there might be more people involved than a standard, if there's even such a thing, of regular teamwork versus unique ability teamwork, what happens with unique ability teamwork when every single person is doing what they love to do and do best, they do it faster, they do it much more easily. Because it's faster, it tends to be less expensive, it's cheaper, and you get a much better and bigger impact. So if these are the results that you're looking for, unique ability teamwork checks all the boxes. But it doesn't happen magically. It doesn't happen by itself. It is vital that you actually pay attention to how you organize it. And I have to say, I've done this a lot more in my past than I have been doing it recently, and I've been coaching it a ton, and it's been so transformational. So there is an exercise in Strategic Coach called Unique Method, and it's really backstage, step-by-step way in which you organize and deliver on the results. Not that complicated. Picture it, if you're not in Coach, it's 12 boxes in a horseshoe shape. Underneath each box, and by the way, we like to go clockwise because that's how we roll. And in each box, there's a little line, and has been for decades, called Who. If you're familiar with Who, Not How, this will resonate. And what I love about it is it allows you to be very strategic about how you place people, where you place them, and it describes the teamwork. Now, I also have converted this to what I call the unique ability relay, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But I want to get to the why this is so important before we get into how we actually do it. So what I'm talking about here is up-leveling your teamwork to the level of unique ability. So quick definition here. If you think about different levels of capability, first of all, if you look at your whole lifetime, there's some things after you do them for a little bit, you realize you were not put on the planet to do these activities. You do not like them. You're not good at them. Just gives you really a feeling of failure, stress, conflict, frustration. You're not good at them. And now I was actually just coaching this yesterday, which was super fun. And I said, this is a conversation you pretty much cannot have in a corporate environment. It's only allowed, I think, in an entrepreneurial environment. Most people don't like saying, yeah, I'm incompetent at that. Woohoo. That's not usually how it goes. So I think it's really important that if you're going to be unique at a few things, you're also going to be incompetent at some other things. And that is completely and totally appropriate. And I think calling a spade, best way to actually design your teamwork and your systems. So there's incompetent activities. Then there's competent, the things at which you're adequate, you're okay, you reach minimum standard. However, there's a lot of repetition. It can give you anxiety, and there's competition. My knuckles are hitting each other here. I don't like competition. I'd rather just win. So I don't want to operate at the level of competent activities. Now, there are some things everyone needs to be competent at, and in a future podcast, I'm going to cover some of those things. I do think that as leaders, there are certain minimum competencies in terms of how well you know yourself. I think there's some key capabilities you need to know in terms of working with your team. And there are certain things you need to know and focus on in terms of the company. That will be a future podcast. So I do think you have to get good enough at them. And as soon as you're adequate, you're okay. And this is per Gallup and strengths-based leadership, and now discover your strengths. Don't invest another second or another penny. Go back to focusing on what you're better at. So I really like that attitude about, strengths. Some things I'd like to say: reading, writing, arithmetic, and retrieval, the 4 R's for the 21st century, are key. You have to know some basics, all good. But as soon as you're there, go back to investing in the things that are actually going to give you a much higher return. So then you have excellent activities. These are, when you or your teammates have superior skill. You're better at it than most people, and that's them saying it, not you. This is not your ego talking. We're not saying that. You get a really good reputation, really great teamwork. People come to you like, oh, could you help me with this? Could you maybe do this presentation? Could you do the PowerPoint? Could you do the Excel? Can you help me with this particular function? Hey, can you help me do this find? Can you help me do this particular prompt with AI? Whatever you're really good at. Now, the challenge is that at some point you may actually have done it so much you're bored. And it's not burnout, it's brownout. You get worn out by it. Excellent trap is what we call it, because you have no passion. You don't light up. Been there, done that, got too many t-shirts. Time to move on. Now, would I choose doing excellent activities over competent or incompetent? All day, every day. But I actually don't want you to stop there. I actually want you to move up, and I want your team members to move up to unique ability. So when I talk about unique teamwork, it's unique ability teamwork. So that means people need to actually be aware of where they have superior skill, but also they have passion. Their eyes light up. They lean in when you're talking to them. It's fun. They bring energy and creativity. It's not draining. So it gives them energy because they have this passion. And it's interesting because I was coaching yesterday, and it was started early and ended late, and I had late night, flights home and such. But physically, yes, my feet were tired, but in every other single way, I was lit up from the inside. I'm like, I can fly home without the help of a plane today. I was so jazzed by what I had been doing. It's like, oh, I get to do this. That is really the sense of it. And here's the sucker punch with unique ability. Because we have the passion and we do have enough skill to know that if we invest in it, we could get better. We know that we can have never-ending improvement. And somehow in our world, if that gets translated to, oh, if I can always get better, I mustn't be very good. So people negate and downplay their unique abilities, which is like, no. And we tend to think, oh, doesn't everyone do it this way? Well, if you pay attention, the answer to that will be a hard no. They don't. They don't have the insights. They don't see the same things that you see. They don't give value to the same things. Some people are brilliant at, the nuances about people. Other ones just know how to think about certain things. Other ones are brilliant at taking action. Look at all of the different profiles to get the nuances. People are not the same. We are incredibly distinct and unique. Everyone has a unique fingerprint. This is a good indication here. So everyone does have unique ability, and we do each other a disservice if we take it for granted with ourselves and if we don't pay attention to the uniqueness of other people. So just imagine a team where everyone is playing to their strengths, which is all great in theory, but I gotta tell you, it's gotta be organized. Again, so why this is important is you get to eliminate friction and eliminate drag and play to the talents of who's there. And here's the cool thing about unique ability. We don't talk about it that much, but when I'm doing what I'm really, really good at, I am fast. I know what to do. I am decisive. I am creative. When I'm doing something I'm incompetent or competent at, I'm slow, kind of as molasses on a cold day, as a friend of mine used to say. It's hard. I don't always get the result that I want. What else happens? Again, it's friction. I wander around. I talk to all the wrong people. I'm a complicator. When I'm doing what I'm not great at, I complicate things. When I am doing what I am gifted at, things happen incredibly quickly and incredibly well. It does not take long. It feels easy. But just because it feels easy, I do not make the mistake of thinking that everyone could do it. And I get to appreciate, oh, I am so lucky that this is easy for me. Other things that other people find mind-numbingly simple, I'm like, ugh, that's really complicated. Anything organizational, digital, paper, you name it. I'm like, help, keep me away. You know, there's long stories about this, which I will not bore you with. But anyway, if you see what I will do to avoid having to organize, you'll be laughing your rear end off. Hopefully it's entertaining, but it's true. It just drains the life out of me. And I will avoid doing it. I will procrastinate, which means it doesn't get done. So you want me playing to my strengths, and I want you playing to your strengths. And I want you to want your team members also playing to their strengths, regardless of what their job description says. Let's design roles. You know, you'll get a new quarterly book soon if you're interested. It's all about how can you create and deliver on the most value. It's going to be by doing what you're both excellent and unique at. My goal is we have a little, page to describe unique ability activities. On the top half are unique and excellent. Bottom is competent, incompetent. I want everyone to spend all of their time on the top half of the page. And taking one of my teammates, Karen Malonis, she goes, I want at least 50% of all of my team's time in unique ability. I'm like, I like that goal. That's a great goal. So what happens when you align people like this? Well, it's really kind of cool. So we have to match the unique ability with what needs to get done. Again, I love profiles because they provide the starting point, but people get clear about it as they focus on it. So I want to describe the unique ability relay to you. So just imagine a relay race. And imagine that it's a cross-country relay race. So there's, green grass, there's a trail, there's also a pond, there's also woods. Now, if I think of one, say, 12-step process, and this is not the 12 steps you might be thinking of, it just happens to be the number of boxes on the page, right? And if I were to do the entire process, there are going to be a few steps at which I am unique. There are going to be a few that I am excellent at. There are some that I'm competent at. And truth be told, there's some that I have absolutely no business doing. So if I am running the race by myself, sometimes I'm going to be running fast. Sometimes I'm going to be in the woods, and sometimes I'm going to be in the pond, right? I'm not going to get a winning time on that one. So it's interesting when you look at that and look at anything that you have to do, some kind of complex project or complex team, is that you actually need to kind of focus on, just imagine being freed up from every step that you don't love and are good at. All of a sudden, that would look a lot more fun. What if you could just come in and do the parts that you're great at and then pass the baton, because this is true, and I'm waving this around right now, passing the baton to the next person who's actually really good at it and wants to run the race. So this is if you're doing the race, or if you have a team that you have not worked on their unique abilities, you don't know what they're unique, excellent, competent, or incompetent at, you can be super frustrated with your team because sometimes you pass the baton. Well, let me back up. There are 2 rules to be successful in a relay race. And by the way, it's super fun to study the Olympic races to see who's really good at it. So first of all, you have to have the right runner in the right place in the race. There's someone who starts, you've got the middle runners, you've got the finisher. It's very strategic. And the second rule, which I've learned because I never ran track very clearly, is don't drop the baton. Those 2 rules are absolutely vital. So what happens if you pass the baton to someone who's incompetent at it? They drop it and you're like, oh. And I have to tell you right now, you're probably thinking, yeah, I have scar tissue from passing it to someone who I thought was going to take it and run, and they dropped the darn baton. And you're probably still mad, and that probably will drive you back to being a rugged individual because you're like, I can't trust people. You'll have this conversation in your head. We all have scar tissue from passing it to someone who dropped the darn baton. If you pass it to someone who's competent, they're not going to drop it, but they certainly don't move with any velocity, any speed. They're kind of like dum-de-dum-de-dum, and you're like, oh, Lordy. It's like watching paint dry. And then when you pass it to someone who's excellent, it's like, ooh, now we're getting somewhere. They're running fast, but you also notice that they're a little stressed. There's little beads of sweat coming off their head. Now, what's interesting, when you pass the baton to someone who is unique in that particular role, they're not like, oh, there's work. They're like, oh, me? I get to do this? And they light up and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they run like the wind. Literally, I will physically demonstrate this in the front of the room with a red baton, and I get someone to demonstrate dropping it, walking slowly, running faster, and then finally lighting up and running like the wind. It's very entertaining. Just to give a shout out to a friend of mine named Darren Laverty in the UK, was giving a speech, and he literally took the baton and ran around the entire auditorium that I was speaking in. He was epic. It was fabulous. So that's what can happen. And you know this, and you know it because when you get to do something, you're like, can't wait. And just imagine when every step of a key process in your organization, in your company is done by someone who loves it and it has superior skill. They're really, really good at it. And they are always getting better. So that's what I'm talking about. And I realized, I'm all about documenting processes. How should they get done? That's a big part of the EOS thing. We've had unique method for 30 years. So we've been talking about this too. And the great thing, by the way, about how we document, and I'm all for procedure manuals and all the stuff, but there is something about seeing a process laid out graphically that is so vital. Because you get to see it in kind of the top-down bird's eye view, and you can make some really, really good decisions. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take action on this. Just take one. And I actually love doing this exercise with teams. Super cool. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of one process. Now, if it's ordering lunch, not too fussed about that. If it is something that has a little bit more complexity, maybe it's a find in your CRM, in your database. Maybe it's processing a payment or an invoice. Maybe it's designing a presentation. Maybe it's delivering your service or your product or your experience. So choose one aspect that has roughly 8 to 10 steps and simply write them down in order. So first of all, you document the process. Then you write down who is currently doing it. And it's really fun. Sometimes you'll realize you're writing down 5 names. You're like, oh, that could be a problem because no one person is owning that step. Maybe you realize some steps are combined that need to be broken out. So as you write it down, you'll start to have insights and thoughts just by the process of documenting it. It is so interesting. And I love doing it this way because it doesn't matter if you're Colby Fact Finder, follow through, quick starter, implementer. We can all diagram how things happen. Although I will say follow throughs have an awful lot of energy for this because they love flowcharts and diagramming things. So if you are going to do this as a project, enroll someone who's a 7, 8, 9, or 10 in. Actually, I've never seen a 10 follow through. I'm sure they exist. Anyway, get someone who's got the mental energy for documenting processes. They'll take this project and run. Their eyes will light up, just saying. So it's really fun to document it. So then, just imagine, just write down who is currently doing it. As I said, you might have one person, you might have nobody. Again, that will explain why the baton got dropped, or that you've got too many people. And then in the middle, we have a little section, which are improvements. Now, the other thing I would add to this, not currently part of our model, is timing. Because I've learned this. One time, I was publishing an article and it had to get edited and proofread and all the things. And I thought I'd communicated the urgency of this particular project. So I gave it to the editor with great enthusiasm and, great, what I thought was energy, that this was important and urgent. And then the next day, I was kind of expecting it in the morning, and I came by later in the afternoon. I said, oh, where's this piece? It's really urgent. We need to get it out. She goes, oh, it's right here on the corner of my desk. I was like, oh, dear. So what I did not clarify was that she needed to pass the baton back to me once her part was done. So she didn't drop it. She did her part, but she didn't make sure that I grabbed hold. And what I've learned from studying some relay races, especially at the Olympic level, is it's not necessarily the team with the best runners. It's actually who passes the baton the best. And I won't name countries, but it's one that I'm currently in right now, who won the last one. And it's really fun to see, other people get disqualified because they mess up the passing the baton. Anyway, enough said about that. It's really fun to document it. So one other thing to do, or another way to use it, let me talk about it that way, is to do it for a brand new process that you want to create. So this is, again, what we call a backstage process. We call it unique method. And sit down with more than just you. Now, I'm someone from a process standpoint who tends to really simplify / oversimplify the number of steps in a project. I pretty much have 2 personal steps, start and stop. Most processes are a little bit longer than that. So I will bring in some of my colleagues, friends, who are much more knowledgeable. And sometimes we need more than one unique method because they give me all the detail about how many steps there are. And we document, how should this happen? If we're going to design a really elegant, fast process, what are the steps and who needs to be doing them? And this is so powerful. So you actually get to design a clean process. Now, I like taking an existing process and simplifying it. My famous story, which you may have heard me reference. This was years ago when I had my own sales team within Strategic Coach, my own little company within the company. And my top salesperson, she was amazing. And she closed 20 sales in 2 weeks. And that was a record. Like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. It's like, great. We got all these sales, put in for the commissions, all the things. And I said, congratulations. She goes, I never want to do that again. I was like, not what any sales manager, entrepreneur wants to hear. I'm like, why? And she goes, because every single sale had so many steps. Like the volume of work was crazy. So we went through and I pulled out Unique Method, one of my better moves, and we documented every single step in the sales process. And she was not wrong. There were 24 steps to every sale. So 20 times 24, you do the math. That's a heck of a lot of work. So literally I started slashing. Figuratively, I started burning the steps. I just cut stuff out. We delegated some stuff. We stopped doing certain steps and we got it down to 12, which was really powerful because I wanted her to be excited and motivated and inspired to want to close that many sales again. I didn't want her overwhelmed, which is what she was. So I think you could actually make some team members' lives better if you said, hey, let's just sit down. Things are getting kind of complicated. Looks like things are getting bogged down. Let's go through and analyze what are all the steps. By the way, this is super fun to do on a large whiteboard. You start documenting all the steps and then you're like, oh, Lordy, no wonder things are bogged down. And I think if you want to also strengthen teamwork between teams, this is an incredibly useful process to go through. Again, very useful to document a new process, to fix an existing one. That's probably my favorite and my go-to. And the last one is this is how you train new people, is you say, this is how we do it. And it's so useful because then they're clear. And then we have 2 versions of Unique Method. So we've got the full one, which is 12, and then we have a shorter one, which has 7. And one of the insights of my team leaders last week was he goes, oh, I realized some like a find in the database. So he could use a little mini, Unique Method. For some people, they don't need the Unique Method for that. But for some people, they might want a documentation of the steps. And once you learn it, it's learned, and then you can just go on to the next one. So you can kind of layer them together, not to get you all complicated or anything. But, some processes are pretty sophisticated and they need to be done right. So that's kind of another cool way to use Unique Method. But it's brilliant for training. First of all, it indicates to whomever you're training that you actually know what the heck you're doing and it's not random. Always key. And then it helps you make sure that it becomes a checklist. You get to check the boxes. A great book called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, Atulgawande. Not a new book, but brilliant about the value of checklists. And I got so excited when I read it because I was like, Unique Method, Unique Method, Unique Method. This is how planes take off safely and land safely, is when the pilot is actually going through the checklist. You've seen those really cool they have their things strapped to their leg. It's really neat to see how they do it. My dad used to have one of those. He was a pilot as well as a lawyer. And when doctors follow it in hospitals, patients don't get infections. And when they don't follow it because they think they know better, bad things happen. So really powerful to use it as a checklist. And that's a great way you can coach, way that you can train, just super powerful. We've done this several times in our company. And in order to produce the number of workshops that we have, there's something like 450 unique methods required to do what it is that we do. And that is intellectual capital. Right? This is amazing. Someone said, basically, you have doubled the value of your company by the fact that you have documented how you do things. Most talent, most capabilities walk up the door at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And the fact that you've documented means that that knowledge has been captured. Now, the cool thing is, this is paper and pencil, which is a great way to start. But then you probably also want to put it into some technology, AKA Process Street, Process Suite. I know there's a bunch of other ones out there. So by all means, check the technological versions of this too. But I have to say, there is nothing better than taking pen to paper or marker to whiteboard and actually documenting it that way first, streamlining it, making it better. You almost always do 2 versions. Oh my gosh, it's like, oh, this part should be done by this person. This person has way more energy for it than the person who's currently doing it. I would love to be out of that step. Can someone else step in? You get to make it way better Literally, you cannot do this without making changes almost immediately. And then you can put it into one of the, great technological tools that we have to do that, but lay it out graphically first for yourself. You will learn so much, and it is a great team meeting, I can tell you. And again, if you want to foster teamwork between teams, then I think it's a brilliant thing to do. So I'm stressing this because we talk about unique ability all the time. We talk about putting people in the right seat. What we don't talk about is how to make it work. How is it that you pass the baton? So a couple quick last things about that. We've coined the term the delegation death grip. And I want you to imagine you're passing the baton to someone and they go to take it and you don't let go. You say you're going to, but you never actually let go. This is called micromanaging. This is called maintaining control. This is not what we're talking about. The opposite of that is what we call the drive-by delegation. This is when you whip it at someone's head. God knows if they catch it or not. Even if they do, they catch it out of the air. They're like, what's this? And you're gone. There's no time for questions, no queries. You're like, handle it. And they get to hear your voice from afar. So no, don't do the drive-by either. And some of us are very guilty of that. Then there's the no delegation at all. You're surrounded by a fabulous team of capable people, and you are still doing it all yourself. This is rugged individual. And then finally, there's the good handoff. And the tool that we will often use for this is called the impact filter, which you've heard me talk about. It's available on the strategiccoach.com website. Go download it for yourself. It is phenomenal. But this is literally, I will wrap the impact filter around a red baton and go, this is what you need to do. I'm actually doing this in a speech at the end of the week, which will be really fun. So I want you to have good handoffs, super clear. But first of all, document your processes. Make it graphic. Again, 12 boxes in a horseshoe shape. And it's so useful because organizing unique ability is really the essence of unique ability teamwork. Who is doing what when? And if you're wondering, this is how we do the quarterly books. And we've refined this process over, it's hard to believe, 10 years. I can't believe that. We're on book 44 right now as you're listening to this. It's amazing. We have 10 people on the team and each person contributes something different. Like Carrie used to come up with the questions. Now I come up with the questions. Dan didn't used to do a fast filter. Now he does a fast filter. Carrie didn't love doing the writing. She prefers to do the editing. Now we brought in her brother, Adam, who does the writing. Hamish does the cartoons. I do the author interview. We have Jen lay it out. We've got proofreading that happens as well. And then we've got the video recording and then Suvi who edits the video and Victor. So we have this incredible team of people together and we just are really good at passing the baton. And I only have to do what I love to do. Dan only has to do what he loves to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is how we can produce a book, brand new book, every 90 days. This is no small feat. If Dan were doing it by himself, he might get one book done a year. So this is the faster, easier, cheaper, with a bigger impact and better result. Again, it looks like it's going to be more complicated, but once you work out this unique ability process, aka unique method, you will be in awe. You can figure out if you need to swap somebody out. Sometimes someone will leave and you'll need to revamp the process a little bit. New technology will come in. I would say that's been the biggest change, is where could you use certain technology, certain finds, your CRM, AI, obviously, to actually streamline something. Technology is automated teamwork, so might as well include them too. That works really, really well. So anyway, my point is have some fun with this, but I want you to think about, again, my phrase is, how do you organize unique ability for results? This is putting it into action. So I am super excited for you. I think this will eliminate some frustrations, will help you streamline your processes. It will make you much more efficient and therefore much more effective, which leads to productivity and one of our favorite words, profit. So I am all about this, and I am doing it in a kind of technical way by the graphic overview. But for me, even I want to do that. If you say, oh, Shannon, do you want to go and document all your processes? I'm like, no, I'd rather stick sharp sticks in my eye. So I don't want to do that. However, if you say, hey, can we graphically lay this out to make it more efficient? I'm like, okay, especially if I don't have to do it by myself. So anyway, it's fun. I like efficiency. I want to be part of an efficient team. I hate being part of an inefficient team. Rubs me the wrong way. And I want people to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's certain parts of a process that I am a wrong fit for, and other times where I'm like, yes, put me in here. But it's like I can get bogged down. I can create friction and drag. So putting the right person in the right place in the race, and sometimes that means rearranging. Someone who's incompetent over here can be unique over there. So be astute to that, and then have really, really good handoffs. Okay, I hope this is exciting for you. I hope you can picture what I'm talking about, even if you're not in Coach. If you are in Coach, please go in and download the unique method from the client site. We want you to have that. But if not, 12 boxes in a horseshoe shape will set you loose. So anyway, I hope this helps you take your unique ability teamwork to the next level, because after all, that is what this is all about. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know at questions@strategicoach.com. And as always, here's to your team success.